How oft upon yon eminence our pace has slackened to a pause, and we have borne the ruffling wind, scarce conscious that it blew, while admiration, feeding at the eye, and still unsated, dwelt upon the scene. Thence with what pleasure have we just discerned the distant plough slow moving, and beside his labouring team, that swerved not from the track, the sturdy swain diminished to a boy. Here Ouse, slow winding through a level plain of spacious meads with cattle sprinkled o'er, conducts the eye along its sinuous course, delighted. There, fast rooted in their bank, stand, never overlooked, our favourite elms that screen the herdsman's solitary hut, while far beyond, and overthwart the stream, that as with molten glass inlays the vale, the sloping land recedes into the clouds, displaying on its varied side the grace of hedgerow beauties numberless, square tower, tall spire, from which the sound of cheerful bells just undulates upon the listening ear, groves, heaths, and smoking villages remote. Scenes must be beautiful, which daily viewed please daily, and whose novelty survives long knowledge and the scrutiny of years. Praise justly due to those that I describe. God made the country, and man made the town. What wonder then that health and virtue, gifts that can alone make sweet the bitter draught that life holds out to all, should most abound and least be threatened in the fields and groves. Possess ye, therefore, ye who, borne about in chariots and sedans, know no fatigue but that of idleness, and taste no scenes but such as art contrives, possess ye still your element. There only can ye shine. There only minds like yours can do no harm. Our groves were planted to console at noon the pensive wanderer in their shades. At eve, the moonbeam, sliding softly in between the sleeping leaves, is all the light they wish. Birds warbling, all the music. We can spare the splendor of your lamps. They but eclipse our softer satellite. Your songs confound our more harmonious notes. The thrush departs scared, and the offended nightingale is mute. There is a public mischief in your mirth. It plagues your country. Folly such as yours, graced with a sword and worthier of a fan, has made what enemies could ne'er have done. Our arch of empire, steadfast but for you, a mutilated structure soon to fall. England, with all thy faults, I love thee still, my country. And while yet a nook is left where English minds and manners may be found, shall be constrained to love thee. Though thy clime be fickle, and thy year most part deformed with dripping rains, or withered by a frost, I would not yet exchange thy sullen skies and fields without a flower for warmer France with all her vines, nor for Ausonia's groves of golden fruitage and her myrtle bowers. To shake thy senate, and from heights sublime of patrick eloquence to flash down fire upon thy foes, was never meant my task. But I can feel thy fortunes, and partake thy joys and sorrows, with as true a heart as any thunderer there. And I can feel thy follies too, and with a just disdain frown at effeminates, whose very looks reflect dishonor on the land I love. How, in the name of soldiership and sense, should England prosper, when such things as smooth and tender as a girl, all essenced o'er with odours, and as profligate as sweet, who sell their laurel for a myrtle wreath, and love when they should fight, when such as these presume to lay their hand upon the ark of her magnificent and awful cause? Time was when it was praise and boast enough in every clime, and travel where we might, that we were born her children. Praise enough to fill the ambition of a private man that Chatham's language was his mother tongue, and Wolfe's great name compatriot with his own. Farewell those honours, and farewell with them the hope of such hereafter. They have fallen each in his field of glory. one in arms and one in council. Wolfe upon the lap of smiling victory that moment won, and Chatham heart-sick of his country's shame. The 20th year is well nigh past, since first our sky was overcast. Ah, would that this might be the last, my Mary. Thy spirits have a fainter flow, I see thee daily weaker grow. 'Twas my distress that brought thee low, my Mary. Thy needles, once a shining store, for my sake restless heretofore, now rust disused and shine no more, my Mary. For though thou gladly wouldst fulfill the same kind office for me still, thy sight now seconds not thy will, my Mary. But well thou playedst the housewife's part, and all thy threads with magic art have wound themselves about this heart, my Mary. Thy indistinct expressions seem like language uttered in a dream, yet me they charm, whate'er the theme, my Mary. Thy silver locks, once auburn bright, are still more lovely in my sight than golden beams of orient light, my Mary. For could I view nor them nor thee, what sight worth seeing could I see? The sun would rise in vain for me, my Mary. Partakers of thy sad decline, thy hands their little force resign, yet gently press gently mine, my Mary. And then I feel that still I hold a richer store 10,000-fold than misers fancy in their gold, my Mary. Such feebleness of limbs thou prov'st, that now at every step thou mov'st, upheld by two, yet still thou lov'st, my Mary. And still to love, though pressed with ill, in wintry age to feel no chill, with me is to be lovely still, my Mary. But ah, by constant heed I know how oft the sadness that I show transforms thy smiles to looks of woe, my Mary. And should my future lot be cast with much resemblance of the past, thy worn-out heart will break at last, my Mary. The poplars are felled. Farewell to the shade and the whispering sound of the cool colonnade. The winds play no longer and sing in the leaves, nor ooze on his bosom their image receives. 12 years have elapsed since I first took a view of my favorite field and the bank where they grew, and now in the grass behold they are laid, and the tree is my seat that once lent me a shade. The blackbird has fled to another retreat, where the hazels afford him a screen from the heat, and the scene where his melody charmed me before resounds with his sweet flowing ditty no more. My fugitive years are all hasting away, and I must ere long lie as lowly as they, with a turf on my breast and a stone at my head, ere another such grove shall arise in its stead. 'Tis a sight to engage me, if anything can, to muse on the perishing pleasures of man. Though his life be a dream, his enjoyments, I see, have a being less durable even than he.
Oh, that those lips had language! Life has passed with me but roughly since I heard thee last. Those lips are thine, thy own sweet smiles I see, the same that oft in childhood solaced me. Voice only fails, else how distinct they say, "Grieve not, my child, chase all thy fears away." My mother, when I learned that thou wast dead, say, wast thou conscious of the tears I shed? Hovered thy spirit o'er thy sorrowing son? Wretch, even then, life's journey just begun. Perhaps thou gavest me, though unseen, a kiss, perhaps a tear, if souls can weep in bliss. Ah, that maternal smile, it answers, yes. I heard the bell tolled on thy burial day. I saw the hearse that bore thee slow away, and turning from my nursery window, drew a long, long sigh, and wept a last adieu. But was it such? It was. Where thou art gone, adieus and farewells are a sound unknown. May I but meet thee on that peaceful shore, the parting sound shall pass my lips no more. Thy maidens grieved themselves at my concern, oft gave me promise for quick return. What ardently I wished, I long believed, and disappointed still, was still deceived. By disappointment every day beguiled, dupe of tomorrow, even from a child. Thus many a sad tomorrow came and went, till, all my stock of infant sorrow spent, I learned at last submission to my lot. But though I less deplored thee, now forgot. Where once we dwelt, our name is heard no more. Children not thine have trod my nursery floor. And where the gardener Robin day by day drew me to school along the public way, delighted with my bauble coach, and wrapped in scarlet mantle warm and velvet capped, 'tis now become a history little known, that once we called the pastoral house our own. Short-lived possession, but the record fair that memory keeps of all thy kindness there still outlives many a storm that has effaced 1,000 other themes less deeply traced. Thy nightly visits to my chamber made, that thou mightst know me safe and warmly laid. Thy morning bounties ere I left my home, the biscuit or confectionery plum, the fragrant waters on my cheeks bestowed by thy own hand, till fresh they shone and glowed. All this, and more endearing still than all, thy constant flow of love that knew no fall. Thou, as a gallant bark from Albion's coast, the storms all weathered and the ocean crossed, shoots into port at some well-havened isle, where spices breathe and brighter seasons smile, there sits quiescent on the floods that show her beauteous form reflected clear below, while airs impregnated with incense play around her, fanning light her streamers gay. So thou, with sails how swift, hast reached the shore, where tempests never beat nor billows roar. And thy loved consort on the dangerous tide of life long since has anchored at thy side. But me, scarce hoping to attain that rest, always from port withheld, always distressed, me howling winds drive devious, tempest-tossed, sails ripped, seams opening wide, and compass lost. And day by day some current's thwarting force sets me more distant from a prosperous course. But oh, the thought that thou art safe, and he, that thought is joy, arrive what may to me. My boast is not that I deduce my birth from loins enthroned and rulers of the earth, but higher far my proud pretensions rise, the son of parents passed into the skies. And now, farewell. Time unrevoked has run his wonted course, yet what I wished is done. By contemplation's help, not sought in vain, I seem to have lived my childhood o'er again, to have renewed the joys that once were mine, without the sin of violating thine. And while the wings of fancy still are free, and I can view this mimic show of thee, time has but half succeeded in his theft, thyself removed, thy power to soothe me left. Here lies, whom hound did ne'er pursue, nor swifter greyhound follow, whose foot ne'er tainted morning dew, nor e'er heard huntsman's hollow, old Tiny, surliest of his kind, who nursed with tender care, and to domestic bounds confined, was still a wild jack hare. Though duly from my hand he took his pittance every night, he did it with a jealous look, and when he could, would bite. His diet was of wheaten bread, and milk, and oats, and straw, thistles, or lettuces instead, with sand to scour his maw. On twigs of hawthorn he regaled, on pippins, russet peel, and when his juicy salads failed, sliced carrot pleased him well. A turkey carpet was his lawn, whereon he loved to bound, to skip and gambol like a fawn, and swing his rump around. His frisking was at evening hours, for then he lost his fear, but most before approaching showers, or when a storm drew near. 8 years and 5 round rolling moons he thus saw steal away, dozing out all his idle noons, and every night at play. I kept him for his humour's sake, for he would oft beguile my heart of thoughts that made it ache, and force me to a smile. But now, beneath this walnut shade, he finds his long lost home, and waits in snug concealment laid, till gentler puss shall come. He, still more aged, feels the shocks from which no care can save, and partner once of Tiny's box must soon partake his grave.
Toll for the brave that are no more, all sunk beneath the wave, fast by their native shore. 800 of the brave, whose courage well was tried, had made the vessel heel and laid her on her side. A land breeze shook the shrouds, and she was overset. Down went the Royal George, with all her crew complete. Toll for the brave Kempenfelt is gone. His last sea fight is fought, his work of glory done. It was not in the battle, no tempest gave the shock. She sprang no fatal leak, she ran upon no rock. His sword was in the sheath, his fingers held the pen, when Kempenfelt went down with twice 400 men. Weigh the vessel up, once dreaded by our foes, and mingle with your cup the tears that England owes. Her timbers yet are sound, and she may float again, full charged with England's thunder, and plough the distant main. But Kempenfelt is gone, his victories are o'er, and he and his 800 must plough the wave no more. Obscurest night involved the sky, the Atlantic billows roared, when such a destined wretch as I washed headlong from on board, of friends, of hope, of all bereft, his floating home for ever left. No braver chief could Albion boast than he with whom he went, nor ever ship left Albion's coast with warmer wishes sent. He loved them both, but both in vain, nor him beheld, nor her again. Not long beneath the whelming brine, expert to swim he lay, nor soon he felt his strength decline, or courage die away, but waged with death a lasting strife, supported by despair of life. He shouted, nor his friends had failed to check the vessel's course, but so the furious blast prevailed that pitiless perforce they left their outcast mate behind, and scudded still before the wind. Some succour yet they could afford, and such as storms allow, the cask, the coop, the floated cord, delayed not to bestow. But he they knew, nor ship, nor shore, whate'er they gave, should visit more. Nor, cruel as it seemed, could he their haste himself condemn, aware that flight in such a sea alone could rescue them. Yet bitter felt it still to die, deserted, and his friends so nigh. He long survives who lives an hour in ocean self-upheld, and so long he, with unspent power, his destiny repelled, and ever as the minutes flew, entreated help or cried adieu. At length his transient respite past, his comrades who before had heard his voice in every blast could catch the sound no more, for then by toil subdued he drank the stifling wave, and then he sank. No poet wept him, but the page of narrative sincere that tells his name, his worth, his age, is wet with Anson's tear, and tears by bards or heroes shed alike immortalize the dead. I therefore purpose not or dream, descanting on his fate, to give the melancholy theme a more enduring date, but misery still delights to trace its semblance in another's case. No voice divine the storm allayed, no light propitious shone, when snatched from all effectual aid, we perished, each alone, but I beneath a rougher sea, and whelmed in deeper gulfs than he. I am monarch of all I survey, my right there is none to dispute. From the centre all round to the sea, I am lord of the fowl and the brute. O solitude, where are the charms that sages have seen in thy face? Better dwell in the midst of alarms than reign in this horrible place. I am out of humanity's reach, I must finish my journey alone, never hear the sweet music of speech. I start at the sound of my own. The beasts that roam over the plain my form with indifference see. They are so unacquainted with man, their tameness is shocking to me. Society, friendship, and love, divinely bestowed upon man, oh, had I the wings of a dove, how soon would I taste you again. My sorrows I then might assuage in the ways of religion and truth, might learn from the wisdom of age, and be cheered by the sallies of youth. Religion, what treasure untold resides in that heavenly word, more precious than silver and gold, or all that this earth can afford. The sound of the church-going bell these valleys and rocks never heard, ne'er sighed at the sound of a knell, or smiled when a Sabbath appeared. Ye winds that have made me your sport, convey to this desolate shore some cordial, endearing report of a land I shall visit no more. My friends, do they now and then send a wish or a thought after me? Oh, tell me I yet have a friend, though a friend I am never to see. How fleet is a glance of the mind! Compared with the speed of its flight, the tempest itself lags behind, and the swift-winged arrows of light. When I think of my own native land, in a moment I seem to be there. But alas, recollection at hand soon hurries me back to despair. But the sea-fowl is gone to her nest, the beast is laid down in his lair. Even here is a season of rest, and I to my cabin repair. There is mercy in every place, and mercy, encouraging thought, gives even affliction a grace, and reconciles man to his lot.